There's a unique byproduct of choosing to stay silent in social situations, choosing not to become involved in the melodrama of other people's lives. But it can only be entered once you stand by that silence, even in moments that may seem unnatural to do so. There's this social phenomenon, I consider it a contagion, wherein you encounter another person and they come along with their own problems. They're either complaining about their problems, proportioning it out into a bigger deal than it really is, or they come to you as if you're somehow able to resolve their problems. And then the other person's behavior, the one that they're letting off all the steam on, begins mirroring that person's very problems. Suddenly the eyebrows raise up. You've probably done this. I know I have. And the other person without problems has become just as irritated as the person who has problems. And they'll let it be known too. The first person will say something in the likeness of, "Can you believe that happened to me?" Then the other person will respond with something to the degree of, "That shouldn't have happened in the first place. Shame on them," or whatever is the case. So what is occurring here? It's not readily acknowledged because of just how common it is in our day-to-day life that we eventually forget about it. But there is a trend here. Even in the littlest of interactions with complete strangers, will we hear something that they want to let us know is unappealing for them. They'll say it in a kind of a repulsive tone of voice, and we will react in accordance with that very dissatisfaction, vindicating their emotions through our own, in a sense, validating them. I'm setting all of this up to pretty much undermine it and not to seem like a cold-hearted bastard or anything, but there are situations where people are genuinely in need of assistance. Of course, if a person goes up to me in a public setting to inform me they've been kidnapped or something, I would make it my problem then. So what I'm setting up, this advice, may not be all that useful when you're in a war zone, or it may be, but it's pretty much this. In your mundane day-to-day life, the boring stuff where there's barely anything happening, which is detrimental to your own safety or isn't really that much of a big deal, I don't think we should care that much. There's millions of small mini dramas that I don't have myself the time to make them my own. So if strangers or people I know want to converse about how bad their situation is or how they broke something, just pure chit chat. They don't want any second opinion. At most, they just want to be heard. However, their words do not do without damage. We are not gauging just exactly how we are subtly being influenced by such conversations day to day. I swear, it chips at you. We are needlessly taking the toll when we don't have any stake in problems whatsoever. Even myself, when I'm told about the personal problems of others in passing, I will contort my body and my expressions. My very voice will be into that of someone who genuinely cares and is emotionally invested in what the other person is saying, just so that I'm not perceived as an indifferent, cold monster. I'll put or out and shake my head in disapproval. Sometimes if the dilemma at hand is mildly interesting, like someone talking about how they just got cheated on, I will shamelessly indulge in it. However, in all of this, what about me? I am taking minutes out of my own life to entertain the worries of other people. And for what? I don't believe that there's such a thing as being born to be miserable. Rather, I believe that the world we inhabit, the experiences we accumulate, the memories that stay with us, and our body's response and internal workings, because even a migraine or just gassiness and even being bloated do play a role in our mood, are what leads us to such miserableness. So now that I've discussed the part that deals with others, let me discuss the part that deals with you, which includes others too. Now, If you are in a relatively peaceful, meaning that there is no war going on or anything, or you aren't being repeatedly abused where you are, there's not much of a use in stressing out about things that you don't have any control over. That's easy to say at the moment, but before, I wouldn't let the opposite of it go. I just couldn't. I was convinced that if I didn't care about things, that it meant that I would just let anything happen. But as of now, I've realized that it's not really about refusing to personally care, but about your disposition to it. There are too many things to count that happen to us where we let our emotions gnaw at us and criticize us ad hominem style with no pushback at all. I'm gonna give you some examples like, oh no, I'm gonna be late. Oh no, it happened again. The same mistake keeps happening again and again. Or I spilled something, I broke something, or I gave the wrong impression, that's not who I am. What is this usually followed with in your mind? I know that at least for me, it's stupid, 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 which is then illogically supported when my mind pulls out citations from instances in the past to justify such name calling and self-beratement. What if you just let all of it go? What if when you acknowledged you were going to be late, or when you made the same mistake again, or when you thought you were failing to meet someone else's expectations of you, you just, okay, fine, I'm going to be late. This is the example. I made the same mistake. I disappointed others. I'll try my best so that it doesn't happen next time. We believe that this ruthless criticism is constructive for change, that it'll make us better the next time it comes around, when it's just tantamount to brief but ongoing self-hatred. It's almost like we're adding on another layer of punishment to ourselves. It wasn't enough that I did the things I didn't want to do. I now have to bash myself mentally and maybe even physically. Such a stupid, stupid creature. Well, to that I say, what a poor, poor person. So hard on themselves, and for what? I say this because I know this, because I've done it countless times. It's only at this point to which I can breathe calmly and just say, to heck with it. In affect, of course. Mind you, this is not a treatise on never trying again or purposefully letting things go bad in the future, because it's all just a part of life. It is a part of life. But when you find yourself failing to meet the idea that you were working to meet, and you find that there's just nothing else you can do about it, just let it down into the ground and bury it. It's a dead idea. You can always plant the seed for another one. Well, what about the suffering of others? I hear you say. I hear so much about it in the news. What about those that are actually living in a war zone? Am I to not worry about anyone else and just live in my own selfish little bubble? And to that I say, caring doesn't necessitate shared suffering. Feeling bad does not accomplish anything in and of itself. We are all too used to feeling bad, that it only becomes a matter about what you feel worse for yourself about. Broken eggs or the starving, dispossessed, and marginalized elsewhere. I would move about it gently, with eyes closed almost, as much as one can to retain peace. And that peace almost always feels like a clarity has purified me. Neither too happy nor too sad, but just the right in between. Neutrality. I am not an advocate for prioritizing yourself absolutely over other people, though it may seem that I am. We depend on others to survive every single day. But I say, if you're going to go out of your way to help someone, I would do it as neutrally as possible. Overt emotional attachment often clouds your judgment and thinking, leading you to justify your actions even if they are counterproductive. It's funny because we hear a lot about people who've achieved financial or popular success with this undying, burning passion within them. The thing about flames is that all it takes is a snuffing to put them out. The flame is a life. You can work yourself to death too, you know? I would go about it neutrally, again, quietly, even slowly. And this implies accepting that sometimes you won't be neutral, that you'll end up falling on one end of the extreme, be it extreme happiness or extreme sadness, and the rest in between. But do remember about returning to the middle, zero. And from here on, this is just me completely stretching it. But even if you are caught in a war zone, or if your very existence is being targeted, it's life or death. In the few moments of safety, without explicit violence, the boring day-to-day life, I would still suggest that in those moments to reach for peace by finding what it is you can exercise control over and do it and keep doing it and do it for as much as you can and avoid as much the paralysis that comes with suffering. On the other end of the spectrum, to excessive satisfaction, comfort, pleasure, even lethargy. This doesn't mean to deny them. Feel it out, of course. Cry me a river, baby. Obliterate that brick wall. Throw a chair. Frolic in the fields. But what usually happens is that we do all those, and from there on, it's like they dictate our future. I want to feel sad, so I'll continue doing the things that'll keep making me feel sad, or I want to keep feeling happiness, so I'll chase whatever next thing will make me happy. We act and think, still carrying those same emotions, but the energy is not the same. You become disappointed in your own pursuit of whatever end of the extreme, on the emotional spectrum. And you become disappointed when you don't reach it, and even more mad at your own self, when really this is yourself, buddy. You got to treat yourself like a friend, like your best friend. So if you want to be in control of your emotions, you got to know when to call it quits and return to your center. To summarize and tie all of this up with a pretty ribbon and bow, what did I even say? Nobody raises their hands. We have uncritically learned and absorbed from the social world that we should internalize such a problem. Otherwise, we are careless, unproductive members of society. I'm here to tell you that you do in fact care, but that you're not gonna let it dominate your emotions. For me, I try to stay as neutral as I can. I get exhausted when I go for sadness or happiness. And that's funny, yeah, sometimes I wanna feel sad. Of course, wanting to feel happy is already self-explanatory, but I think that pursuit of these two things is ultimately going to backfire in on itself. But for now, I would practice to do as little as possible when someone else comes to you with a problem you've already heard a million times before. And avoid falling back on the same behaviors and forms of conduct that you've always responded to in those situations. Try to be silent this next time around. Try to listen more, but also try to see the greater context of this. Evaluate the relationships that you have with this person in the first place. Evaluate whether this is even a worthy relationship. And after it's done, I want you to think about the change, the difference between when you decided to care and when you decided to not let it get to you.